When Don was sick, he used to sit in the recliner, and I would walk up behind him and kiss his head. And of course, when I did it, I could always smell him. And that was like a huge thing when he was gone, is that I couldn't smell him anymore. And I happened to pick up the hat one day, and it was obviously one of the things that never got washed. And it was like, oh, I could smell him. It was so like relieving to me to know that he was still like, there was still something there.
My name's Robert King. I'm an attorney handling Camp Lejeune Justice Act claims. And on Monday morning at 10 a.m., I was in Palm Bay, Florida, meeting with Dawn Green. We had coffee at her kitchen table. Her husband was a Marine, and he did 2 tours in Vietnam. Went to Lejeune twice. He got bladder cancer, and it killed him.
So the blanket came about. I didn't know what to do with Don's clothes because, as you can see, Don didn't just wear clothes. He wore clothes that were personal to him. His t-shirts were very personal. And I had a really hard time. And a friend of mine said, well, I'm going to make a t-shirt quilt for you. Don wore proudly a Marine Corps hat, t-shirts almost every day of his life. He was very proud to be a Marine. I met Don at a mall. At a mall. He was a security guard, and I was in retail management at the time.
And what did you like about him?
Oh, he was hot.
Anything else?
He was a tough guy. He was very loving and caring. He was a good person. The first time we realized that there was a problem was his son's wedding, and he lost control of his bladder and wasn't able to control it, and he was having issues at his son's wedding, and it was embarrassing for him, very embarrassing for him, because he couldn't go 15 minutes without having to find a bathroom, and I knew that was more than just overactive bladder. We got in touch with a urologist outside of the VA, and that urologist was the one that discovered the cancer. He got to the point where he had to be near a bathroom, and we couldn't do things like, we bought kayaks to go kayaking. We couldn't go kayaking. We couldn't do things that we couldn't even go to the mall, because if he got too far from a bathroom, he couldn't do it. And he got to the point where he really didn't want to go anywhere. He never complained about pain. He was a Marine. Don would not touch a wheelchair or a walker or a pair of crutches. I mean, would not, if he had to go into the hospital for something, and you know how they wheel you out in a wheelchair at the end of the day, and I don't know how many nurses he'd get in a fight with over that, because he was not going in that wheelchair. He would not use, until 5 days before he died. I'm sorry. We went to the doctor. He was so weak, and it was bad. It was really bad. And I had all I could do to get him out to the car. I literally had to take chairs and stage him. Then he took a few steps and sat down and got him out to the car. And after I got him out to the car, got him to the doctor's office. When I got him there, he says, "You're gonna have to go in and get me a wheelchair." And I just looked at him and said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Are you okay with it?" And he said, "Yeah." I knew he had given up. He had given up. Well, it was the end. And it was. It was 5 days before he died.
Did you and Don ever talk about what your life would be like after he was gone? I mean, becoming essentially a
No,
widow.
like Don was going to live forever. In his mind, he was going to live forever.
For 34 years, new Marines went to Camp Lejeune 8 weeks after leaving their home. 17, 18, 19 years old, most of them. They did what they were told. They had no choice whether or not to drink the water. They had no knowledge of what was in the water. They were exposed without warning. This is a tragedy that happened in a place where it should not have happened.
I became aware of the law, honestly, through a friend of my son on Facebook. He's an attorney in Rochester, and he had posted something, and I called him over July 4th weekend. And I honestly didn't think I qualified for it. But after a phone call or two, I realized I did qualify for it, and that it was a legitimate thing. I ended up with King Law Firm because, again, it was a friend of my son's who had posted it on Facebook, and then after he had gotten in touch with his boss, Robert King, I talked to him over the phone, and he flew down to Florida to meet with me. I'm looking for somebody that I can trust, somebody that feels my pain, and I feel like I did that. I'm very appreciative of the King Law Firm and what they have done for me already. There's not too many attorneys that would sit at your dining room table and listen to hours of your stories.